È acceso? Sì.
Oh,
Bene, buongiorno a tutti, benvenuti a quest'ultimo evento.
welcome to the last meeting of Vision Stage Middle 2026. We'll be talking about this book, Beyond Vision, by Massimo Barberis and Anna Gatti, whom most of you surely know, and the publisher is Fabiano Editore, Massimo Barberis. Over the last 25 years, you've been dealing with optics as a manager. He's dealt with all of the product categories of the supply chain, including retail. Anagatti is a professional who deals with finance and cost analysis for independent opticians stores. She's been doing that for over 20 years. So tell us about this project and its goals. Over to you, Massimo. First of all, I'd like to wholeheartedly thank all of you, each and every one of you. Today I'm here in my capacity as Massimo. I'm not the CEO of Rodenstock, and I'm not the ANFAO chair, and I'd like to also thank the friends from the other companies. It's a real pleasure to see also the other businesses. Welcome. This is a sign of high esteem. So the beginning was a relationship that started several years ago with Anna. I've always helped, her in terms of manager and consultant. And Anna and me have worked with, key figures in this industry. We've collected lots of information and feedback, and we've built the best practice. At the beginning, we helped optician stores in their evolution. So me, with my expertise as regards personal branding, and during the COVID pandemic, I've designed the personal branding pattern, as I called it, that was published, by the way, as a separate book. And so we supported the optician across the board, from positioning through to analytics. And then Anna and myself said, well, it's fundamental for these opticians to somehow have all of those tools that are used to carry out an analysis and to verify that what we do does have an effect. And most especially, we wanted to trigger all of those, drivers that could create traffic. So with Anna, we started to approach CRM as a strategy, and together with her, I've started to develop the control dashboards, and hence, our project. I've been collaborating with Anna over the last 21 years. We were young and beautiful. Now we are beautiful, but a bit older. But I must avow that it was a fantastic experience. And this book summarizes the last 21 years. So, Anna, would you like to add something? Sure, Massimo, thank you. My contribution comes from my background. I started to work as a financial consultant, so I started from data. So I managed to provide Massimo along the way practical numbers based upon an entrepreneurial culture. Independent opticians needed to be more than a storekeeper, an entrepreneur proper. And so over the past years, we've collaborated with many leading optical centers in a difficult market. Anna, whom does this book address? Is it for opticians, for stakeholders, for the supply chain, for everyone, dear Angelo? This is a question that Angelo and I have tried to answer for a long time. We've created a textbook that can really be helpful for all of the aspects that you've just touched on. In particular, I'm keen on opticians who are entrepreneurs, most especially the youngsters. I really focus on them because they are starting to work in a market that is different from that of their parents. You know, these young entrepreneurs whom I meet become independent after working for the industry. And I suggest that they do read this book because every store is different from the others, even though all stores sell the same things, because you have to focus on your local context and you have to know your numbers and be keen on them to define the goals. Maybe also would-be opticians should read this book because today it's difficult, increasingly complicated to find well-prepared opticians. Here we have many opticians, and I get to talk with many of you. And one of the main difficulties today is to find well-prepared opticians who can somehow help the entrepreneur with new store openings. So why not? They could also have something that helps them understand the business model. We work in a beautiful world. This sector is resilient. It is a market that somehow has never gone through, almost never gone through a crisis. There are ups and downs, quite obviously, due to the upmarket or downmarket situation, but it's a fantastic market. It can be rewarding, but you need to invest in terms of quality, so with training, education, and awareness raising. Absolutely. Massimo, you talked about one of your books. You've authored several books, one of which with Fabiano Editore, and this is a summary of the books that you have written because it puts together these two worlds. You have a slide that simplifies and summarizes, as it were, what I've been telling you. Yes, with Anna, we wondered what the virtuous cycle that an optician entrepreneur should follow to make the difference. And we started from the notion of identification. So what we try is have the optician focus on the local context through an internal, external environmental analysis. So we try and help the entrepreneur say, okay, I'm set in this given context. So what is my identity and USP, and why is it that a consumer should choose me? And how am I positioned? So somehow, what is my positioning, and what should I do to not betray this positioning? This is one of the main mistakes in general made by retail opticians, because they try and sell everything to everyone. It is technically impossible, quite obviously, and every entrepreneur should have the right target and the right positioning. And then communication is becoming increasingly key to stand out, and you need to be able to communicate well your skills, and that's decisive. And then on top of that, there's honors, activities relating to recall and finance control. Why is it a circle? Because in an ideal world, through honors analysis, the entrepreneur from year to year should be able to reset his or her own model and make everything a virtuous cycle to grow and be more and more productive.
We had some wonderful cases. A couple of them are present here. I do not mention them. I always remember that sometimes entrepreneurs tell us this is the objective that we set for the next 3 years. How can we reach it, and which are the steps that we should follow? And some cases were highly successful, and I can tell you that it is not sometimes, it's for sure bigger as a satisfaction than managerial activity. Leading an entrepreneur to be successful is even better than being something else. My dream is to become a teacher. And you spoke about communications, and we can also speak about training, and it is tackled in the book. I know that you, Anna, with your professional approach, you turned communication into a strategic lever. Well, as far as we are concerned, we strongly believe in communication, and with our colleagues from the studio that has been dealing with communications for 10 years, in an important number of optical centers, we were the first to create marketing automation 2017. And imagine the results Massimo is talking about were generated by a favorable market. And also instruments that made independent opticians gain a competitive advantage because that instrument made the difference. Second point, we went on, we kept on processing the business intelligence system and providing more information to customers and the purchasing behavior of final consumers and frequency. Today we have a software and I know that Mido submitted their own in-cloud instrument. I'm happy because opticians will have instruments giving information and allowing them to stay on the market as protagonists. Having said this, training is the other fundamental step. And I believe that today training, just like when we met with Massimo 20 years ago, communication was connected to the product, and today communication should be connected to behavior of reception and selling ritual and culture on frames. Today, February 2nd, 2026, and there's a big difficulty about what to buy, how to behave, and I end. The arrival of manufacturers at retail level can be felt and leads to changes which are difficult. So just through a higher degree of culture and training, and now I give the floor to Massimo because he will speak about it. I believe it's the only direction to be taken and to be suggested to opticians that want to generate business. We believe that training is a strategic asset for the future, and what we've always considered with Anna, it's not enough to have theoretical training. We should put training into a context inside the reality of each entrepreneur, because unfortunately or fortunately the market is highly segmented and each optician entrepreneur has different requirements. So training should be based on the needs of opticians and entrepreneurs. We have Roberto Pregliasco, is a big trainer, is a big friend, and I believe that he can confirm it. Thank you so much, Robbie, for being with us. And once again, training considered as a tool, as something that gives you a toolbox. And that's what, with Anna, we've been trying to do. I go back to this concept, Massimo. While you were writing this book, and specifically the chapter on training, and today in the sector you have high-level training, professional training, managerial training, and corporate training. What is missing? While you were writing such pages, did you get an idea and perhaps you thought you might give some indications to somebody, to some entities? I give you my contribution and Anna will give hers. First of all, inside of the chapter, we've never talked about training connected to the product. Today, opticians, entrepreneurial opticians need specific training. We live in a difficult, complex market where the product is becoming more and more simple and trivial. And training entrepreneurs on management models is fundamental. And what Anna does is essential. Consider that today the profitability of an optician goes through the possibilities to map KPIs, and Anna, apart from the software, together with Blue Data, she has developed exceptional expertise, and I believe it's the only consultant in Italy that can create this difference. Today, optical entrepreneurs with her go from having profitability problems to generation of value. Thank you so much, Massimo. And to reply to Angelo, I believe that now what we need in terms of training is personalized training that starts specifically from here. You also eyewear in completely different territories, in completely different markets, and starting from objective data of your context, then we can impart training, and that's what leads to success. One of the chapters inside the book speaks about the role of opticians in the health sector, and it's an extremely current theme. After difficult years and between the two worlds, eye doctors and opticians, why have you written this chapter? What does it want to say? And where does it lead to? Once again, we have tried to consider the market in a 3-year perspective, and we have realized that it is fundamental to change the mindset of opticians, entrepreneurs, and because not just regulatory framework changes, but also the habits of consumers change. A 33-year-old person today is a digital native, and I spoke about it with Simona this morning. In 13 years, the wearer will be wearing progressive lenses, and if the purchase experience of such people is not positive, in the future they will keep on going to retailers or the web because they are digital natives, and the optician's store is a place where an experience can be generated, not just speaking about eyewear, the fashion world winking at something highly innovative, having digital components, artificial intelligence. Opticians today should work on such elements, and so the store should be a lab looking ahead to the future. That's fundamental. If the optician keeps on being a neighborhood optician, he or she is doomed to fail because digital natives won't want to have to do with him. And Anna, from your contacts with your clients, do you witness this some sort of euphoria, this future? Is there much to be done? No. Yes, I notice it, and it was the typical feature of the second part of 2025. We went on vacation with the hope that something would change, and we started again getting to Christmas overwhelmed by a crisis, for what Massimo said. Who is winning? Those that understood it is necessary to be specialized, to train employees, and turning up the sleeves and getting out of the comfort area, and it's the price to pay. And so that's the direction to take, and I'm optimistic for sure. We have clients and that want to be interlocutors that want to be different in this market. Today they don't have big warehouses. Today they ask you, what should I do to be successful? And it's wonderful to me, and especially our interlocutors are more informed than many years ago, because they know what is happening around. And you said second half of 2025. What's the sentiment here at Mido? It seems to me that a step forward has been taken, more optimism, and also clients with projects that have already been carried out proactive. As of September, the sentiment has changed. I'm speaking about people I know, of course, but it's objective, something objective. And you, Massimo, did you have this feeling of a brilliant meetup, very good meetup, and I must admit, good level of attendance? We're still waiting for official data from Meet-on-File. They will be in line, if not better, than last year, and especially a bit more positive climate. You have to be optimistic. I like the concept of turning up the sleeves and trying to speak about a new optical sector that is more evolved, more qualified, more trained, that sells a value product. Because if we want to establish a relationship with the medical sector, we have to follow that type of direction. Otherwise, we'll never find an agreement with physicians. Before, you spoke about the web as a risk, danger, and whatever. In your book, I see a case history in transition from the online to the physical world. For years, I've been studying the sector. We haven't taken an Italian case history to avoid mentioning Italian entrepreneurs. Warby Parker is a wonderful example because starting from the online world, then they got to the physical world. But what made the difference is that each point of sale is different and it is adapted to the social context where it is opened. You don't have a single Warby Parker format. They open stores, and in Atlanta probably the store is completely different than Miami or Canada, because they try and establish territorial relations based on the local specificity and social specificities. I believe it's a wonderful example. A wonderful example of link between online world and offline world that should cooperate. Another important aspect, we cannot reject the digital online channel. The online channel will keep on being there and will keep on growing. Waging a war against the online is nonsense. We should turn it into a strategic ally. That's what Warby is doing, and I believe that today they've reached 140 stores, one of the biggest retail chains, high-profile chain in USA and Canada. This territorial diversification, generational diversification, do you see it in your customers, in your activity? And so, yes. And that's the big novelty of the Italian market. I see in front of me so many clients. They all sell eyewear, and based on the history of the store and the area, they have a different product to offer. And that's why they are winning. That's the difference. And those, in my opinion, that keep on thinking that the same product can be adequate for everybody. And I'd like to know if from the audience we have some questions, curiosities about the book. Is there a traveling mic?
Microfono, non so. Volete... Chi vuole fare domande?
Who wants to ask questions?
No, mi stava salutando.
Ok.
Perché lui sapeva che stavo parlando anche di lui, della sua azienda.
Curiosities, some questions for these two authors, two professionals, that have written a quite peculiar book.
No, siamo stati bravi.
Esatto.
Troppo bravi. Allora faccio io una domanda, un'ulteriore domanda.
I will ask you one question, a typical question, but especially now this question is quite relevant for both of you. this book? Is it an arrival point or a departure point for you professionally, but also for the sector? And yes, it's an arrival point, but it's also a departure point. Just like I told you at the beginning, it's the summary of our experience, the first arrival point after 21 years of work together, and what we've understood on the market. We considered ourselves to be humble observers of the market, and from this point of view, it's an arrival point, but it's a departure point. On the other hand, it's to keep on observing the market and how the market evolves, and I believe it's wonderful. And I must admit that Anna is always a source of inspiration. I've known very few people calling me early morning with their typical Emilia-Romagna accent, and she's really a volcano submitting ideas. That's how I am. Those that have known me for some time, yes, Massimo is also a highly stimulating partner, and it's not so common to find colleagues with whom you can share issues that you encounter in your daily activity. And I believe that it's a beginning, a hope. Where do we want to get to? I don't know. For sure, I'm happy today with this work team. Letizia, Giulia, and Elena are famous in our sector for the work they have done, they do, and they will keep on doing with independent opticians. I'm happy because it's so difficult to help such beloved clients that today are here with us. And how can you do it without experience? I wonder. I'm optimistic, but if you consider Annalisa having such partners, just like Massimo said, in stores, having such suppliers, partners, well, you cannot be but optimistic. Yes, because I also call Annalisa, and yes, we speak on the phone. That's why it's beautiful, because if there's a problem with a client, a solution is found. And I believe that those that work following the right direction, pursuing quality, I'm talking about Annalisa and the company she represents, I believe it's of benefit to the market. It's not a question of certain... I've seen Nando Fabiano, and I'd like to thank Nando Fabiano. The publishing project started 1 year ago, was born 1 year ago. Nando, shall we publish another book? Nando is always available. He's reminding you that the book is available here at the stand. It has been published today at the stand of Fabiano Editore, and in the website of Fabiano Editore. I'd like to end like this. You have made a summary of 2025. There's a question. If you want to come here to ask your question, a remark and then a question. My background has always been CRM. I left a job as a manager and I opened a store. And it's a sector that is wonderful. And also my family worked in the sector. When I read business models, CRM and KPI, and it was also the title of the event, I thought that the room would be packed. In the sector, there's a lack of culture about the business model, but CRM and KPI, and I'm not an optician. I spoke with colleagues, entrepreneurs, and they asked me, what is CRM, KPI? I do realize that out of 8,000 independent opticians, more than 60% are pure opticians, and perhaps they didn't have entrepreneurial training. That's the assumption. I hope that the room would be packed.
So I know from experience that CRM can completely change the fate and the performance. I've done that for the fashion and logistics and most especially retail. And this is what makes most palatable the offering of large groups that I won't mention but that we all know. Now the question. Should I open the book? What are the three main issues that I would find and that you have found? I mean, the solutions to the three main problems that you've found with the opticians with whom you've worked or collaborated. Well, first of all, thank you for your kind words. I appreciate them. You know, a press conference at 3 p.m. on Monday. I mean, I'm not justifying Mido, but it's not likely to have a big audience. Maybe yesterday we would have had a bigger audience. Instead of talking about problems, I would like to talk about solutions, because this certainly helps us better understand our work, and most especially I wouldn't only talk about what I can solve, but what can be the approach rather. So I, as an entrepreneur, should know why a consumer should choose me based upon my features, and what the consumer should do in the store so that that client can become an ambassador. So what is the ideal journey for me as an entrepreneur? What Anne and I always tell entrepreneurs is, don't you consider individual aspects, but question yourself. We deliver an initial service with some questions for the personal branding pattern, and there are two opticians here who've done that. And I always say, I won't be with you, Anna won't either. It's you on yourself without your team. It must be the optician entrepreneur who analyzes himself or herself and says, okay, this is who I am, and where do I want to get at, and what are the distinctive traits that will help me? And then there's Anna's part connected with CRM. And today, this much I can tell you, one of the single most complex aspects is the following. The first question is who you are and what is your distinctive element. And 90% of opticians have no answer. 90%. Likewise, 90% of opticians still don't have a sound organization for financial control. Zero. No mic has been used. Apologies, but we cannot hear and cannot translate. And I would like to add to that the current fall in margins of optician stores has led to stores that have never proposed discounts are now proposing huge discounts. And this is the worst defeat that we could have because the suppliers' cost increase has led to a decrease in profitability because prices proposed by opticians are not discounted. So this causes, that ignorance in data control and in verifying the price lists on the one hand, but on the other hand, like Massimo said, the fact that you believe that you can gain market shares through discounts, it's a suicide. It's an overt suicide. Today, we don't have the margins to make discounts. No way. We have to do what we've been talking about. And only those who've done that for years are, remaining alive. And I believe that this is the big change and the reason for this book. That is to say that the protagonists of this market are different, completely different. That's it. Yes, absolutely. In 1999, the opticians decided everything. No way now. The paradigm has completely changed. We're talking about a market in which the profitability has completely changed, and probably the digital has accelerated this, and the big retailers have done that as well. And today the market scenario is completely different, and every 4 to 5 years it changes. So we have to prepare entrepreneurs to this jump. We have the good fortune in Italy to have many independent, high-quality opticians. So if we want to retain the market, this is the only solution, including because the big risk is that sooner or later there will be investors coming from other markets, and when they understand that this business generates a certain level of profitability, and should they step into our market, quite clearly we could have a problem, or large investment funds, and they are setting a foothold in the retail sector. So if there are no more questions, I would like to conclude by saying that you've given to us a snapshot of 2025, and you've talked about, what's in store for the first half of 2026 as regards the Italian market. The sentiment, the market sentiment, quality-wise. It's $1 million question. It's not easy, because unfortunately consumption, not only in optical retail but across the retail sector, are very much connected to the macroeconomic situation. And unfortunately, knowing what Trump will think when he wakes up, well, no way, it's not possible. And this is the first challenge that we have when it comes to forecasting the future. Quite obviously, all of this can change the scenario. We couldn't assume that tariffs would set in, and Italy is the largest glasses exporter in the world, following China in terms of quantity, and we rank first for branded products, and exports have had a double-digit fall due to tariffs. So it's complicated to foresee the future, but based upon Istat data, as of December 2025, there has been a 10% decrease in willingness to spend in glasses. This doesn't help any other sectors, including food and automotive. Anna, do you agree? Absolutely. Absolutely. So stay focused. Don't you look at volumes, look at value instead. And then read the book so that you can start understanding that you have to look at and analyze numbers and stay focused on numbers, right? Okay, with this take-home message and hope, I'd like to thank Anna Gatti, Massimo Barberis. Thank you, and thank you to all of the members of the audience. Thank you for joining us.